Welcome everybody to the podcast. I'm your host, Cadet Master Sergeant Harden, and this is our guest, Cadet Major Bradyn Long. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. What about you?
I'm doing great myself.
So would you care to introduce yourself to everyone?
Of course, I am Cadet Major Bradyn Long. I am originally from Illinois, but my family is from Pennsylvania. We moved to Mississippi about 7 years ago, so I've been living here ever since. That's when I found out about Civil Air Patrol. I joined the MSO99 Squadron in Tupelo, so in northeastern Mississippi area, and I've really enjoyed it. I've been in CAP for almost 3 years now, and I've experienced a lot of really neat things that I never would have gotten to experience if I never joined. And so I'm really thankful for this experience. Fun fact about me, I'm really tall, so it goes with my last name. So if you see me at encampment and you see the 6'4" guy walking around that's really skinny, that's me.
Wow.
Yeah, I get that a lot. It's kind of, my last name fits me. It's perfect. I went to National Blue Beret last year. That was really my first NCSA and probably the best one I'll ever go to. It was really neat to get to marshal the planes, see 7,000 planes in 1 week, 650,000 people. It's truly a once in a lifetime experience that I'm really glad I got to enjoy. Yeah, that's kind of my intro.
That's wow. I didn't know that. I was like, that's your lifelong Mississippi kid. I guess not. So you said that you were originally from Illinois and you moved down here 7 years ago. So you began to be active with CAP after moving to Mississippi, correct?
Yes.
So how did you find out about CAP? Who's the person?
My mom saw a Facebook post about this Tupelo Squadron, and she thought that I would like that since I want to be a pilot. And so whenever she saw that, she's like, "Oh, Bradyn might be interested in this." So she told me about it, and I'm like, "Yeah, let's go. That sounds fun." I haven't ever left since.
Oh, shout out to your mom then, you know?
Yeah, I owe it to her. Hey, she's a senior member now too.
Oh, wow. Is she going to be at encampment this year?
She is. She's actually one of the senior members in the kitchen, so she'll be making the food.
I'll make sure to thank her every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. Don't want to ever forget.
Yeah. So, you are officer in command of logistics. So can you describe your role as officer in command and like why you chose it?
So last year was my first time staffing encampment. I did Mississippi Wing 2023. And I was a flight commander. So I was part of line staff, got to experience the day-to-day life of the basic cadet, leading them along. And that was really a really cool thing that I got to do. And closer to the end of encampment, I realized how much work was put on, how much work was done besides myself. I know it's kind of hard, especially at encampment, to not focus on yourself because there's a lot of work for everybody to do.
Yeah.
And especially with the flights and the things that lead up to the end of encampment, the really fun activities, I noticed how much work was put in by these other cadets who are on support staff. And when I went to apply for encampment this year, I thought it'd be really cool to see what that side of encampment looked like because it's kind of behind the scenes. Support staff isn't noticed as much, but it's just as important as line staff. And that kind of encouraged me to take on this role. Logistics specifically, because logistics makes sure everything for an activity is in the right place at the right time. And anything that needs to be somewhere is made sure that it gets there by logistics. And I know there were a few things, especially at my basic encampment, that could have gone a little bit better. Because, like, for example, I ran out of water at one point and there was no water. And that's really hard when you're outside and it's 105 degrees and long sleeves. Not the best time. So I want to make sure that I can help these basics understand their experience and make it the most memorable for them in the best way possible. And being an OIC, I enjoy leading people. That's why I chose to be a flight commander last year. And I wanted to do the same thing. I didn't want to be just at an executive role or even kind of right under that. I wanted to be hands-on with other cadets, and that's where I like to be the most.
Okay, that's a really great reason. You kind of bring up the fact that, everybody has their thing. And like, even with you being like the rank of like cadet major, which is really high up there, um, you still, as a cadet major, have your own style of how you like to do things in Civil Air Patrol. And you kind of take on roles based on what you like to do. And that's what I've been like, that's what you're gonna see in a lot of people staffing this year. Their rank has really little to do with why they chose their position, and it has more to do with like their personality and the things that they enjoy doing.
Definitely, yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to point out because I know when I was a lower ranking cadet, I thought that all the higher ranking people were so far above me,
Yeah.
and that they had like no affiliation with me. And I realized as I started to move up in the ranks, that's not actually how it is. It's kind of hard to see it as a different way whenever you're a lower ranking cadet. But there's all these opportunities are here for you no matter what experience level you may be. Because you're still going to learn no matter what you do at encampment, you're going to learn. And that was, I really like that. That's kind of my inspiration.
So, for the people who don't know, after a cadet's first encampment, their basic encampment, they can get something called a call sign, which is basically a funny nickname or just any nickname that they kind of picked up during encampment based off of something they did. Would you mind telling yours?
Yeah, mine was Friendly Giant. So if y'all have ever read the book by Roald Dahl, Big Friendly Giant, I wasn't big enough to be Big Friendly Giant, but I was friendly enough to be the Friendly Giant. So I haven't been called that much since then, but it still goes around.
I think we need to bring it back. We need to bring.
Hey, I'm in full support. As long as you'll remember that I'm friendly, I'm happy with it.
Well, that's good. Yeah, you seem like a friendly person. This is actually my first time talking to you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I don't think I've ever met you before, but I can tell we're having a good conversation and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. So I remember I had a couple nicknames that they wanted to give me as my call sign, but I think potato chip is starting to stick on.
Is there a story behind that?
Of course, there's a story behind it. So last year during my basic encampment, we had a little talk. Our commander, Squadron 1 commander, was having a little talk about keeping the barracks nice because it was a tad dirty in there.
Yeah, I was a Squadron 1. I know what you mean.
Oh yeah, okay. So you were there. So there's actually a bag of Lay's barbecue chips on the floor, and during his rant, he pointed out the bag of chips on the floor because there's like a chip that fell out and was on the floor crushed up. And he was like, "Does anybody know what that is?" And I raised my hand and I said, "I believe those to be Lay's barbecue chips, sir." And he kind of just looked at me and and then he continued on with his speech. But everybody remembered that, and that's how I kind of got the call sign potato chip. Do I like it? I'm not sure. But,
I vaguely remember that, but I do. Like, I can actually picture that talk going on because I was standing up there with him.
So with logistics, you guys make sure everything needs to go where it goes. You make sure all the cadets have their pretty blue beds in their barracks. So what would you say is your strategy for effective logistics management during encampment?
I think that the biggest part of my strategy, I feel like there's a lot of moving parts to it. But the biggest thing is communicating with everyone for everything. So logistics is kind of the middleman between, taking things down to the basics and then getting those orders from higher up in the chain. And making sure that you have a freeway flowing communication system between where you're taking those things and when you're getting those orders is really important. Because you could be really good at taking stuff places and getting it there on time, but if you don't have the right orders and you don't execute them immediately, as soon as you get them and things like that, it's not going to get done no matter how good you are at what you do. So effective communication is the biggest thing that I would highlight. The other thing is working as a team. There's going to be several instances, I already know it's going to happen, where there's going to be like 3 different things that need to go in 3 different places all at the same time. And there's 4 of us on logistics staff, including myself.
Wow.
So we're going to have to divvy up the job. And the only way to do that is to work as a team and to communicate with each other, because everybody's going to have to be using their own discretion to make the right decisions and things like that. So effective communication and working as a team are the 2 biggest things I would highlight.
Hey, small but mighty,
Definitely, yeah.
So you guys are basically like a Mississippi wing Amazon?
Kind of, yes. And unfortunately, we don't get to use the vans. We have to run them on foot, but we'll still be doing it quickly.
Hey, you should ask the senior members for a shopping cart to make things a little easier.
Hey, that's a good idea.
So, you personally, how do you like keep everything organized that you need to do throughout the week?
One thing that I kind of gotten into more recently is making to-do lists. It's probably like the most simple thing you could do, but it's amazing how much it's helped me get things done, because throughout my day, even just here at home, I'll be like, oh, I need to go do this thing or whatever. And I mean, I'm doing something at the moment where I won't be able to go do that other task. So I make a list. And so then later on in my free time or whenever I have set aside time for that, I can go and work on that other task. So that is probably something I'm going to work on a lot at this encampment. Being a flight commander, there's less to-do lists, I guess you could say. There's more of a set schedule and you just go with it.
Yeah.
Being logistics, there's going to be specific tasks that need to be completed throughout the day. So making a to-do list is going to be my biggest thing, and also prioritizing those items. If you've got a class at noon and you've got a class at 3 p.m., obviously the class at noon is going to be your priority because it's going to be coming up sooner. Right. But yeah, to-do lists are probably like my best friend for getting things done.
So have you worked with Google spreadsheets at all? Google Sheets?
I have, yes. And I think I'm going to have to get pretty fluent with that, because I know there's going to be a lot of stuff to go on those, but they are really good for making lists of things to do and when things need to be places.
Okay, so when you get to encampment, right, if you see Cadet Lieutenant Cupstead walking around, ask him to show him his Google Sheets skills, because I told him, I quote, Cupstead, you're in Google Sheets God. He is like amazing at like formatting Google Sheets. Like he loves it. That's like, so
that doesn't surprise me. He's good at like odd things like that, and that's something that's really important that as admin he needs to know how to do. So yeah, Cupstead and I are pretty close. He's a good guy, and yeah, I'll definitely have to hit him up on that. I'm definitely going to need him to show me how to do some stuff.
Yeah, but thank you so much for your time. This interview was amazing. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for interviewing me. I've enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. I guess we'll see each other at encampment.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
All right, take care.